Imagine if I told you that right now, as you're watching this video, there is a war happening inside your brain, a battle between the forces trying to keep you awake and those trying to make you sleep. And scientists just discovered that both sides might be using the exact same weapon. We spend a third of our lives asleep. That's 25 years if you live to 75. Yet for 70 million Americans, those years are a battlefield. Insomnia, sleep apnea, narcolepsy, these aren't just inconveniences. They're stealing $411 billion from our economy every year. They're causing car crashes, workplace accidents, and slowly destroying our health. 1 in 3 adults doesn't get enough sleep, and the consequences are literally killing us. But what if the solution to our sleep crisis isn't in another pill or app? What if it's hidden inside a worm so tiny you need a microscope to see it? Scientists at Dresden University just made a discovery that's flipping everything we thought we knew about sleep on its head. They found a single molecule that acts like a biological switch. But here's the crazy part. It controls both falling asleep and waking up. It's like finding out the same key that locks your door also unlocks it, depending on which way you turn it. To understand this breakthrough, we need to talk about C. elegans. Yeah, I know, not the most exciting name, but this microscopic roundworm might be the most important animal you've ever heard of. It's only about 1 millimeter long, smaller than a grain of sand. It lives in soil, eats bacteria, and has a grand total of 302 neurons. For comparison, you have 86 billion neurons. That's like comparing a bicycle to a spaceship. But here's why scientists love these little worms. When it comes to sleep, they're surprisingly similar to us. They get drowsy, they stop moving, they become less responsive to their environment. And if you keep waking them up, they'll sleep harder and longer when they finally get the chance, just like you after pulling an all-nighter. The really mind-blowing part, while humans have thousands of neurons controlling sleep, C. elegans manages the whole thing with just one single neuron called RIS. It's like having one employee running an entire corporation. And that simplicity is exactly what makes it perfect for understanding how sleep actually works. Professor Henrik Bringman and his team were studying what happens when this RIS neuron activates. They knew it releases a chemical messenger called FLP11. Think of it as a text message sent between brain cells. But they didn't know what this message said or who was receiving it. Through painstaking genetic detective work, they identified the receiver, a receptor called DMSR1. Now, this is where things get weird. They found this receptor in 2 completely different types of neurons, in wake-promoting neurons and in the sleep neuron itself. When FLP11 hits the wake neurons, it tells them to shut down. Makes sense, right? You need to turn off wakefulness to fall asleep. But then the same molecule hits the sleep neuron and tells it to shut down too, which wakes you back up. Lorenzo Rossi, the PhD student who ran the experiments, describes it perfectly. It's like having a remote control where the same button turns your TV on and off depending on timing and what circuit it hits. The same chemical that knocks you out also brings you back. This isn't just some quirky worm biology. This is evolution showing us something fundamental about how sleep works. These worms have been around for hundreds of millions of years. They've survived ice ages, meteor impacts, and countless predators. And through all that time, they've kept this simple, elegant system for controlling sleep. Think about what this means. Sleep is so important that even an animal with only 302 neurons dedicates one of them entirely to sleep control. That's like a small town of 302 people having one person whose only job is deciding when everyone sleeps and wakes up. If sleep wasn't absolutely critical for survival, evolution would have gotten rid of it millions of years ago. But why does this matter for your insomnia or your dad's sleep apnea? Because despite the massive difference in brain complexity, many of the molecular mechanisms are shared between worms and humans. The genes, the proteins, the chemical messengers, they're remarkably similar across species. Remember those 70 million Americans with sleep disorders? Current treatments are limited. CPAP machines for sleep apnea work, but compliance is low. Imagine trying to sleep with a mask blowing air into your face all night. Sleeping pills can be addictive and often leave you groggy. And for conditions like narcolepsy, where people literally fall asleep randomly during the day, treatment options are frustratingly limited. Understanding this biological switch mechanism opens entirely new possibilities. What if we could develop drugs that target specific parts of this sleep-wake switch? What if we could fine-tune the timing so the sleep signal doesn't accidentally wake us up too early? What if we could help those with narcolepsy by fixing a broken switch rather than just managing symptoms? The research also helps explain something many of us experience, why we sometimes wake up naturally after a deep sleep feeling refreshed, while other times we're jarred awake feeling terrible. It might be about where we are in this molecular switching cycle. Here's what really gets me about this discovery. We live in an age where we're trying to optimize everything about our lives. We track our steps, our calories, our screen time. We buy expensive mattresses and blackout curtains. We download apps that promise us to sleep better. Americans spend over $15 billion a year on sleep aids and treatments. But this tiny worm is showing us that maybe we've been overcomplicating things. Maybe the answer isn't in adding more pills, more technology, more interventions. Maybe it's in understanding the simple, elegant system that's been working for hundreds of millions of years. The researchers are careful to point out that human sleep is obviously more complex than worm sleep. We have sleep stages, dreams, and circadian rhythms that C. elegans doesn't have. But at the molecular level, at the fundamental level of how neurons communicate to control sleep and waking, we might be more similar than different. This is just the beginning. Scientists around the world are now looking for similar mechanisms in other animals. They're searching for the human equivalent of FLP11 and DMSR1. They're trying to understand how this switch evolved and why it works the way it does. And they're asking bigger questions too. Like, why does the same molecule do opposite things? Is this nature's way of ensuring we don't sleep too long? Is it a safety mechanism to make sure we can wake up quickly if there's danger? Or is it something even more fundamental about how biological switches need to work? What excites me most about this discovery is it came from studying an animal most people have never heard of. It's a reminder that breakthrough discoveries often come from unexpected places. The scientist studying pond scum who discovers a new antibiotic, the researcher looking at jellyfish who figures out how to make cells glow, and now the team studying a microscopic worm who might have found a key to understanding one of the most basic mysteries of life. For everyone struggling with sleep tonight, and statistically that's about 1 in 3 of you watching this video, this discovery offers hope. Not immediate solutions, but real hope. Because now we understand something fundamental that we didn't before. We know that sleep and wake aren't separate systems fighting each other. They're two sides of the same molecular coin. The path from this discovery to new treatments won't be quick. It never is in science. But every breakthrough starts somewhere. And sometimes it starts with a worm, a dedicated team of researchers, and one surprising molecule that refuses to pick a side. So tonight when you lay your head on your pillow, remember that the same biological switch that's about to knock you out is already preparing to wake you up again. It's been doing this dance for millions of years. And thanks to some tiny worms and curious scientists, we're finally starting to understand the steps. What do you think? Does knowing about this ancient sleep switch change how you think about your own sleep? If you're fascinated by how science is unlocking the mysteries of sleep, hit subscribe
because the breakthroughs are coming faster than ever, and you won't want to miss what we discover next.